Deep in the Andron cluster, the sleek, silver flagship of the Yarrun fleet drifted among the stars. The Hastren was a marvel of precision engineering, its every system a testament to Yarrun values logic, efficiency, and an almost religious dedication to eliminating unnecessary risks. On board the vessel, a human named Isaac Merrill, a mechanic by trade, diplomat by misfortune, had become an anomaly they were forced to tolerate. Isaac's unexpected tenure aboard the Hastren began 6 months ago, after an engine malfunction stranded him in Yarrun-controlled space. While awaiting rescue, Isaac had patched their ailing warp drive with a mix of Earth ingenuity and junkyard improvisation, a rubber band, a stick of gum, and sheer grit. The Yarrun, led by the stern commander Talric, had grudgingly allowed him aboard until a proper solution could be arranged. 6 months later, Isaac was still there, equal parts guest, nuisance, and occasional hero. The Yarrun, translucent beings whose crystalline veins shimmered faintly beneath their pale blue skin, were still uncertain what to make of him. Humans were too reckless, too chaotic, and far too casual about their fragile biology. It was a source of constant fascination and frustration for the Yarrun crew. This tension came to a head one fateful day, during what the crew would later call the incident. It began with a routine planetary survey of Eldaros III, a barren world with rugged terrain and a swirling orange sky. The Yarrun crew descended with quiet efficiency, their drones flitting about to collect mineral samples. Isaac tagged along, ostensibly to assist with equipment maintenance, but mostly because staying on the ship was driving him stir-crazy. "Stay within designated parameters," Talric's voice crackled over Isaac's comms. His tone carried the usual undertone of exasperation. "Deviation increases risk factors exponentially." "I'm just stretching my legs," Commander Isaac replied, boots crunching over jagged stones. His grin was practically audible. While the Yarrun moved with the precision of a synchronized clock, Isaac wandered further than he should have. He was halfway through marveling at the planet's jagged cliffs when a low, guttural growl echoed from a nearby crevice. Isaac froze, every survival instinct screaming at once. From the shadows emerged a creature as alien as it was terrifying. It stood the size of a compact car, its body a patchwork of metallic scales and bristling dark fur. Its eyes glowed faintly, and its claws gleamed with a menace that left no ambiguity about their purpose. Talric," Isaac said, backing away slowly. "We've got company." The creature lunged. Isaac twisted aside just in time, but not before its claws raked across his arm. Pain flared hot and immediate, and crimson streaked the rocky ground. Before the beast could strike again, a piercing hum filled the air. The Yarrun team had deployed their defense drones, which zapped the creature with bursts of concentrated energy until it retreated into the shadows, snarling. Isaac staggered back, clutching his arm as blood seeped between his fingers. Talric and Sub-Coordinator Mavin hurried to his side, their crystalline veins pulsing an alarmed green. "Human, you are gravely injured," Mavin exclaimed, inspecting the gashes on his arm with what Isaac swore was genuine panic. He glanced at the wounds. They were deep, sure, but he'd seen worse growing up on his family's farm back in Nebraska. "This," he said, cracking a grin. "Nah, it's just a scratch." Talric's normally impassive face twisted into something resembling horror. "A scratch? Your tissue is ruptured. Hemorrhaging is evident. Pathogenic infiltration is likely. Immediate stabilization is required." Isaac chuckled, hoping to lighten the mood. "Relax. Clean it, slap on a bandage, and I'll be fine." But the Yarrun weren't listening. They whisked him back to the ship with the urgency of people transporting unstable plutonium. By the time they reached the medbay, Talric had already declared a code crimson, a protocol typically reserved for species teetering on the brink of death. The sterile white room buzzed with activity as medical drones hovered, their tools glinting ominously. "Prepare the preservation chamber," Talric ordered. "Whoa, whoa, whoa," Isaac protested as a drone approached with a syringe the size of a turkey baster. "I don't need a preservation chamber. Just clean it up." Maven tilted her head, her expression skeptical. "Your species' disregard for injury borders on suicidal. This level of damage would be fatal to most sapient beings. Isaac leaned back on the examination table, still trying to diffuse the situation with humor. Well, most sapient beings aren't human. As the medics worked, Isaac entertained them with stories of humanity's peculiar brand of resilience. He told them about Evel Knievel jumping canyons, marathon runners finishing races with broken legs, and a childhood friend who'd accidentally cut off a finger, taped it back on, and only sought help after dinner. The Yarrun listened with a mix of horror and fascination. "Your species is fundamentally reckless," Maven remarked, her crystalline veins now pulsing in intrigued yellow. "You engage in activities that increase the likelihood of injury." "Yeah," Isaac replied, grinning, "but we're also really good at surviving them." When the medics finally declared him stable, Talric pulled him aside. His tone was uncharacteristically grave. "Human Isaac, your resilience is remarkable, but your recklessness is untenable. If you were to succumb to your own carelessness, it could jeopardize our alliance." Isaac raised an eyebrow. "You mean me getting scratched by a space bear is a diplomatic crisis now?" Talric ignored the sarcasm. "For the sake of interspecies cooperation, I must insist you exercise greater caution." "Sure thing," Commander Isaac replied with a mock salute. "But seriously, don't worry about me. I'm tougher than I look." Talric remained unconvinced, but the conversation ended there. In the days that followed, Isaac's scratch became the talk of the ship. The Yarrun crew watched him with a mix of wariness and awe as he returned to work, as though nothing had happened. They marveled at his ability to carry heavy equipment, climb into cramped ventilation shafts, and perform tasks that most of them required exoskeletal assistance to manage. One evening, Maven approached Isaac in the mess hall, where he was enthusiastically devouring a plate of rehydrated noodles. "Human," she began hesitantly, her crystalline veins pulsing orange, a color Isaac had come to associate with curiosity. "I have been reviewing your species records. Is it true that humans willingly leap from high altitudes attached to elastic cords?" Isaac grinned. "Oh, bungee jumping? Yeah, it's a blast. And the purpose of this activity is entertainment." "Pretty much," Isaac replied, slurping a noodle. "We like pushing limits. Keeps life interesting." Maven stared at him, her head tilting slightly as though struggling to process the concept. "Your species is incomprehensible." Isaac chuckled. "You'll get used to it." The atmosphere aboard the Hastren remained tense, though the Yarrun crew couldn't resist their growing curiosity about Isaac. His stories of human endurance circulated widely, sparking debates and recalibrating long-held assumptions about biological limits. For Isaac, the attention was amusing, but it didn't stop him from continuing his daily routine, poking around the ship, fixing things, and occasionally annoying Talric by stretching the rules. The next challenge came unexpectedly. The Hastren received an invitation to dock at Kethra Station, an interstellar hub where dozens of species mingled, traded, and sometimes schemed. For the Yarrun, it was an opportunity to negotiate new alliances and procure rare materials. For Isaac, it was a chance to explore and, as he put it, see what space junk shops look like. Talric gave Isaac strict instructions to stay out of trouble, a warning Isaac half listened to as he stepped into the station's bustling corridors. Vendors lined the passageways, their stalls brimming with exotic wares, glowing crystals, iridescent fabrics, and gadgets that seemed to defy physics. Isaac wandered, wide-eyed, until a booth caught his attention. The merchant, a creature with 3 sets of arms and a single glittering eye, gestured enthusiastically toward a display of shimmering orbs. "Ah," traveler had exclaimed in a voice like wind chimes. "You must try these, a delicacy from the Vrim cluster. Guaranteed to invigorate the senses and fortify the body." Isaac raised an eyebrow. "What are they?" The merchant picked up one of the orbs, holding it aloft as though presenting a treasure. "Energy enhancers, completely safe for most species." "Most species?" Isaac asked, smirking. "Humans included," the merchant added hastily. "Completely safe." Isaac shrugged. Why not?" He popped one into his mouth, crunching through its crystalline shell. A wave of sweetness flooded his taste buds. followed by a tingling sensation that spread through his body like liquid adrenaline. He handed over a few credits, grabbed a small pouch of the orbs, and continued exploring, oblivious to the consequences. By the time he returned to the Hastren, Isaac felt fantastic. His energy levels were through the roof, and he attacked a backlog of maintenance tasks with uncharacteristic efficiency. He was in the middle of calibrating a plasma relay when Maven entered the room. "Human Isaac," she said, her crystalline veins flickering with mild suspicion. "Your productivity has increased by 300%. Have you been consuming stimulants?" Isaac grinned, holding up one of the orbs. "Just tried some snacks at the station. They're amazing. You should." Before he could finish, a searing heat surged through his body. His vision blurred and his legs buckled. He collapsed to the floor, clutching his chest as the world spun around him. "Medical emergency," Maven shouted, her crystalline veins flashing red as she rushed to his side. "Prepare the infirmary." Isaac awoke to the familiar hum of the mid-bay, the blurry outlines of Yarrun medics flitting about. He groaned, his head pounding like a drum. Talric's face appeared above him, pale and taut with thinly veiled irritation. "What happened?" Isaac croaked. "You consumed a Vrim energy enhancer," Maven said, her tone sharp with disapproval. "A substance highly toxic to humans." Isaac blinked. Toxic. But the merchant said it was safe. Maven's veins pulsed an angry red. "You trusted an unverified claim from a vendor of dubious origins? Your recklessness is beyond comprehension." Talric crossed his arms. "You nearly perished, human. Your resilience continues to astound, but your reliance on improvisation and luck is insupportable." Isaac sat up slowly, wincing as he swung his legs off the examination table. "Hey, I'm still here, aren't I? Just another scratch." The room fell silent as Talric exchanged a glance with Maven. Both seemed to share the same exasperated conclusion: Isaac was impossible. "You are incorrigible," Talric muttered, leaving the mid-bay in a swirl of pale blue light. Despite the scare, Isaac recovered quickly, so quickly that the Yarrun medics began theorizing that human biology was, as Maven put it, a chaotic system operating on probabilities rather than absolutes. Word of his survival spread through the crew, fueling their ongoing fascination with their unpredictable human guest. In the mess hall, Isaac found himself surrounded by curious Yarrun, their crystalline veins flashing various shades of interest as they bombarded him with questions. "Is it true," one asked, "that your species deliberately climbs vertical surfaces without safety equipment?" Isaac laughed. "You mean rock climbing? Yeah, it's a sport." Another leaned forward, veins pulsing orange. "And this, jumping from high places? For entertainment." "Bungee jumping?" "Yep. Some people even do it without the cord." He smirked at their collective gasp. "We call that skydiving." The Yarrun exchanged glances, their expressions a mix of horror and fascination. "Your species is fundamentally reckless," Maven declared, her tone edged with reluctant admiration. Isaac shrugged, flashing a grin. "Yeah, but we're still here, aren't we?" A week after the incident with the energy enhancers, the Hastren received a distress signal from a mining outpost on the asteroid Tresor 9. The message was garbled but clear enough to convey the essentials: a cave-in had trapped several workers deep underground, and their oxygen supply was running out. The Yarrun immediately plotted a course, their innate sense of duty driving them to act with precision and speed. Upon arrival, they found the situation dire. The asteroid's unstable terrain made large-scale rescue operations risky, and the Yarrun scanners confirmed that the trapped miners were alive but inaccessible by conventional means. Talric assessed the readings on a holographic display, his crystalline veins flickering blue as he contemplated the safest course of action. "The structural integrity is compromised. We risk causing a secondary collapse if we proceed with standard excavation." "Then let me go," Isaac said, stepping forward with the confidence of someone volunteering for a local charity rather than a life-threatening mission. Talric turned sharply. "Your proposal is illogical. The instability of the terrain increases the probability of fatal outcomes." Isaac folded his arms. Yeah, but I've done this kind of thing before. Back on Earth, I helped dig out a friend's uncle who got himself stuck in an old coal mine. If I can handle that, I can handle that. Maven tilted her head, her crystalline veins pulsing orange with skepticism. Your confidence is statistically unjustified. Good thing I don't live by statistics, Isaac quipped. After a tense silence, Talric finally relented. Very well, human, but you will proceed under strict supervision. Isaac descended into the asteroid's fractured tunnels, his portable scanner and multi-tool strapped securely to his suit. The air grew thinner and more oppressive as he navigated the maze of jagged rock and twisted metal supports. Every step sent small tremors through the ground, a grim reminder of how precarious the situation was. The miners were huddled in a cramped pocket of space, their faces pale and drawn from oxygen deprivation. Isaac waved, trying to keep his tone light despite the urgency. Hey folks, hang tight, I'm here to get you out. Using the multi-tool and a bit of ingenuity, Isaac began clearing debris piece by piece. The work was grueling, his muscles burning with the effort, but he never slowed. The miners, initially skeptical of their human rescuer, watched in awe as he maneuvered with a mix of determination and calm that defied the circumstances. As he worked, Isaac chatted with them, cracking jokes and sharing stories about Earth's stubborn streak of survival. You ever hear about the time a guy got stuck in a cave for days and just walked out with a busted ankle? Humans are built for this kind of thing. The miners, though exhausted, couldn't help but chuckle. You're insane, one of them said, coughing weakly. Yeah, Isaac replied, flashing a grin, but it works. By the time Isaac emerged from the tunnels, dragging the last miner to safety, he was covered in soot, his suit torn, and his arm bleeding from yet another scratch. The Yarrun crew stared at him in stunned silence as the rescued miners were whisked away for medical attention. You risked your life unnecessarily, Talric said, his tone both critical and begrudgingly admiring. Isaac shrugged, swiping a hand across his sweat-soaked brow. Nah, just another day at the office. Talric's crystalline veins flickered faintly green, a color Isaac had come to associate with something akin to approval. You continue to defy probabilities in ways that are perplexing. Isaac grinned. That's the human way. The miners' gratitude spread quickly, earning the Hastren a reputation for bravery and ingenuity. For Isaac, it was just another chapter in a growing list of exploits that seemed to simultaneously terrify and impress the Yarrun crew. One evening, Isaac found himself alone in the observation deck, staring out at the endless stretch of stars. Talric joined him, his presence quiet but unmistakable. The commander stood beside him for a moment before speaking. You possess an unusual gift, human, Talric said, his tone thoughtful. A willingness to act when others hesitate. It is both reckless and extraordinary. Isaac turned to him, his grin softer this time. Thanks, Commander. I think that's the nicest thing you've ever said to me. Talric's crystalline veins pulsed faintly green again. Do not grow accustomed to it. Isaac laughed, a sound that echoed in the vast silence of the observation deck. For all their differences, he and the Yarrun were slowly finding common ground, a shared respect born from chaos, logic, and a little bit of luck. The Hastren was mid-journey to its next destination when a strange alert rippled through the ship's systems. Maven, stationed at the command console, analyzed the readings with rapid precision, her crystalline veins flickering pale blue in concentration. An unidentified vessel detected, she reported. It appears to be adrift, minimal energy signatures, likely derelict. Talric straightened in his chair, the holographic display reflecting in his translucent features. Determine the vessel's origin. Unknown, Maven replied. The design is not present in any accessible archives. It predates most recorded civilizations. Isaac, leaning casually against a railing at the edge of the bridge, perked up. A ghost ship? Now that's something you don't see every day. Talric shot him a warning glance. This is no time for levity, human. An unidentified vessel poses numerous risks. biological contamination, hostile entities, structural instability. Or Isaac interjected, it could be full of ancient tech, treasure, or survivors. You know, cool stuff. Talric's crystalline veins dimmed in exasperation. You speak as though this is an adventure rather than a calculated risk. Isaac grinned. Is there a difference? Ignoring him, Talric issued orders to approach the vessel cautiously. The derelict ship came into view on the main display, a massive, angular construct with alien glyphs carved into its deteriorating hull. It floated eerily in the void, its surface scarred by millennia of space debris. Energy readings are faint but present, Maven reported. Residual power remains in localized systems. Scans also suggest biological matter. Talric's gaze sharpened. A survivor. Maven hesitated. Uncertain. The life signs are weak, possibly in stasis. Isaac straightened, his grin fading into something more resolute. If there's even a chance someone's alive, we have to check it out. We will deploy drones, Talric replied. Sending organic personnel is ill-advised. Drones won't think on their feet if things go sideways, Isaac said, stepping closer. You need someone who can improvise. You mean someone reckless, Talric countered. Someone adaptable, Isaac corrected with a smirk. And you know I'm your best option. Talric hesitated, his crystalline veins pulsing a conflicted orange. After a moment he sighed. Very well, but this time you will adhere to protocol. Sure thing, Commander Isaac said, already heading for the airlock. Isaac's boots clanged softly against the deck plates as he entered the derelict ship, his helmet's visor casting a pale glow on the walls. The interior was a maze of dark corridors, faintly illuminated by flickering emergency lights. Alien glyphs lined every surface, their patterns twisting in ways that seemed to defy logic. Atmosphere is thin but breathable, Isaac reported. Smells like burnt ozone and old gym socks. That is an irrelevant observation, Talric replied through the comms. Isaac smirked to himself and pressed deeper into the ship, following the faint energy signatures. His scanner beeped softly, guiding him to a chamber filled with intricate machinery. At its center was a stasis pod, its surface covered in frost and dimly glowing with faint pulses of light. Inside the pod was an alien creature unlike anything Isaac had ever seen. It resembled a tangle of translucent tendrils encased in a semi-rigid exoskeleton, its form shimmering faintly with rhythmic pulses. Found your biological matter, Isaac said. It's in stasis. Looks fragile. Proceed with caution, Talric warned. The pod systems may be unstable. Isaac crouched, inspecting the controls. His multi-tool buzzed softly as he calibrated its settings. The pod emitted a faint hum, and the frost began to melt. The creature's tendrils shifted slightly, its faint pulsations growing steadier. I think it's waking up, Isaac said, a note of awe in his voice. The ship groaned ominously, the walls shuddering as debris shifted. Talric's voice snapped through the comms. The vessel's structural integrity is failing. Evacuate immediately. Not without the pod, Isaac replied, disconnecting it from its power source. He grunted as he lifted the surprisingly heavy unit onto an anti-grav sled. I didn't come this far just to leave it behind. You are jeopardizing your survival, Talric said sharply. Wouldn't be the first time, Isaac shot back, maneuvering the sled through the unstable corridors. Moments after Isaac cleared the airlock, the derelict ship collapsed in on itself, imploding in a shower of debris. Back aboard the Hastren, Isaac wheeled the stasis pod into the medbay, his suit streaked with soot and his expression triumphant. You defied orders yet again, Talric said as he entered, his tone cold but his crystalline veins betraying faint flickers of relief. And yet Isaac replied, gesturing to the pod, here we are. The alien inside the pod stirred, its tendrils curling faintly. The Yarrun medics rushed to stabilize the systems, their movements precise and focused. Maven studied the creature with fascination, her crystalline veins pulsing green. Unprecedented, she murmured. This being's physiology is unlike anything in known records. Isaac leaned against the wall, exhaustion creeping into his posture. Yeah, well, it's alive. That's what counts. Talric regarded him silently for a moment, then nodded. Once again, human, your recklessness yields results. I find myself begrudgingly impressed. Isaac grinned. Don't worry, Commander. I won't let it go to my head. The rescued alien, later identified as Alanic, communicated through a series of complex light patterns. With time and effort, the Yarrun deciphered enough to learn that it was a scout from a long-lost civilization, its mission cut short by a catastrophic event that destroyed its people. Alanic's gratitude toward Isaac was unmistakable, expressed in gentle gestures of its tendrils whenever he visited the medbay. Talric, meanwhile, continued to wrestle with the paradox that was Isaac Merrill. The humans' chaotic methods defied all reason, yet they repeatedly produced undeniable success. In moments of quiet reflection, Talric found himself wondering if perhaps there was more to be learned from Isaac's unpredictable nature than he had initially thought. Alanic's presence aboard the Hastren brought unexpected complications. While the alien's gratitude was clear, its fragile condition and unfamiliar biology required constant monitoring. The Yarrun medics worked tirelessly, cataloging its responses to different treatments, but progress was slow. The crew's concerns deepened when Alanic communicated through its light patterns about the derelict ship's origins. It had been part of a fleet fleeing an ancient, galaxy-spanning catastrophe a predatory force had described as the hunger an entity capable of consuming entire worlds. The Hastren crew listened in stunned silence as Maven translated. Talric's crystalline veins pulsed a sharp red. This account aligns with fragmented records from pre-Yarrun civilizations. If such a threat still exists, it could jeopardize all sentient life. Isaac leaned forward, his expression grim but determined. If this hunger's still out there, we'll deal with it. Your confidence is misplaced, Talric replied. You cannot comprehend the scale of such a force. Maybe not, Isaac admitted. But humans have a saying, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. Talric stared at him, his translucent features unreadable. An illogical sentiment. But effective, Isaac countered with a grin. Weeks later, as the Hastren navigated a remote sector of the Andron cluster, the ship's sensors detected a massive energy anomaly. The readings were chaotic, as though space itself were rippling and distorting. Maven's analysis was grim. The anomaly matches patterns described by Alanic, she said. This may be a remnant of the hunger's activity. Talric immediately ordered the ship to high alert. The Yarrun crew worked with precision, deploying drones and scanning for potential threats. Isaac, as usual, inserted himself into the thick of the action. I've got an idea, he said, poring over the sensor data. If this hunger thing is leaving behind energy distortions, maybe we can track it. Set a trap. Talric's crystalline veins flickered skeptically. A trap? Against a force capable of consuming worlds? Preposterous. Not if we play smart, Isaac replied. We lure it in with a decoy, a projection of energy signatures it's drawn to. Then we hit it with something big enough to disrupt it. Hard. Maven tilted her head, her veins pulsing green with cautious curiosity. A focused gravimetric pulse could theoretically destabilize a localized anomaly. Talric folded his arms. The probability of success is marginal. Isaac smirked. Good thing I don't care about odds. The crew worked tirelessly to prepare. Using Isaac's plan as a foundation, they built a decoy device capable of mimicking the energy patterns described by Alanic. The Yarrun's precise engineering combined with Isaac's knack for improvisation resulted in a bizarre but functional creation, a glowing lattice of conduits and amplifiers housed in a reinforced casing. As they deployed the device near the anomaly, tension aboard the Hastren reached a breaking point. The energy reading spiked, signaling that something massive was approaching. The hunger, or some fragment of it, manifested as a swirling void of darkness, its edges shimmering with unnatural light. It pulsed with a low, resonant hum that seemed to vibrate through the ship's hull. Activate the decoy, Talric ordered. The device flared to life, its simulated energy signature drawing the void closer. As it neared, the ship's defenses strained against the gravitational distortions it emitted. Talric's voice cut through the chaos. Gravimetric pulse ready in 10 seconds. Brace for impact. Isaac, stationed at the controls, adjusted the decoy's output to keep the anomaly focused on it. "Come on, you oversized vacuum cleaner," he muttered. "Take the bait." At the precise moment the void enveloped the decoy, Maven triggered the gravimetric pulse. A brilliant shockwave erupted, disrupting the anomaly's cohesion. The void rippled violently, its structure collapsing into smaller fragments that dissipated into nothingness. Cheers erupted across the bridge as the threat vanished. Talric's crystalline veins pulsed green, a rare sign of satisfaction. Mission success. Minimal damage sustained. Isaac leaned back in his chair, a triumphant grin on his face. "Told you it'd work." Talric approached him, his expression softer than usual. "Your ingenuity continues to defy expectations, human. This alliance owes you much." "Glad I could help," Isaac replied, then added with a smirk, "and you're welcome." With the anomaly neutralized and Atlantic safe, the Hastren resumed its journey. The Yarrun crew regarded Isaac with newfound respect, their initial skepticism giving way to genuine admiration. Even Talric, ever stoic, seemed to view him less as a liability and more as an invaluable, if unconventional, ally. One evening, Talric joined Isaac in the observation deck. The two stood in silence, watching the stars drift past. "Your methods are unorthodox," Talric said at last. "Yet they yield results that even Yarrun logic cannot dispute. Perhaps there is merit in your chaos?" Isaac smiled, raising an imaginary glass. "To chaos, Commander, and to figuring it out as we go." Talric's crystalline veins flickered faintly green, a sign of rare amusement. "Do not let it go to your head." As the Hastren sailed onward into the vast unknown, Isaac felt a quiet sense of accomplishment. He wasn't just the human on a Yarrun ship anymore, he was part of something bigger, a bridge between logic and audacity, precision and instinct. And as far as he was concerned, the adventure was just getting started.